You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and there's a lot to get to on this Martin Luther King Day. Of course, we know what two teams are going to be going at it in the Super Bowl in a couple weeks. I'll be breaking down Louisville Duke, a couple notable NBA transactions, and a notable NHL rumor. But I will start with Titans Chiefs. Firstly, for the Titans, let me just say that this was an incredible ride. You guys have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of, and you did exponentially better than anyone could have expected. From going from Mariota to Tannehill, to barely sneaking into the playoffs, to upsetting the Patriots in Foxborough, to upsetting the Ravens in Baltimore, even putting a little bit of a scare into the Chiefs early on. You guys proved that you are a real football team. You deserve to be there. No one can take that away from you. And this is a very easy core to build on if you're John Robinson. I don't know what holes you're going to have to fill. I haven't studied the Titans' contract, but what I do know is there's no reason to doubt that this team could be back in the AFC title game next year. It's kind of funny how this game worked out for Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill, in the past two playoff games, has not had to be the best player for the Titans. He's been able to fill a game manager role. He's been able to take a step back because of Derrick Henry, and the Titans did not have to rely on him to win the game for him. The thing is, for whatever reason, Derrick Henry just couldn't get going yesterday. After all the smack talking that Frank Clark did about Derrick Henry, Henry responded to it by playing his worst game of the playoffs. He just could not get going downfield and break tackles. You've got to give Steve Spagnuolo a ton of credit for putting together a game plan that would stop him. Now, he still played okay. He averaged 3.5 yards per rush, and he did score a touchdown. He didn't embarrass himself out there, but going into yesterday, there was no doubt in my mind that Derrick Henry was the best running back of the four remaining teams. He didn't play like it, and that's why the Titans lost. The Titans lost because Ryan Tannehill was their best player, not Derrick Henry. You can't win an AFC title game with Ryan Tannehill being your best player on offense. Nay, your best player in the game, because there was really no one on the Titans that stepped up defensively. I'm not trying to rain on Tannehill's parade here. He did play well. Threw for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he did a really good job of getting all his receivers involved. He played well. There's no question about it. There's no question that he will be back with the Titans next year. And I'm excited to see what he can do in a full season in Arthur Smith's offense. But hopefully this puts the notion that Arthur Smith has turned Tannehill into a great quarterback now that he's been, quote-unquote, freed from Adam Gase's offense. Is Tannehill a better quarterback in this system than he was under Gase? Yes. But it's not an incredible leap from mediocrity to greatness. If Tannehill was a 6 under Adam Gase, he's now a 7. Or if he was a 7 under Gase, he's now an 8. All he did was take a leap from good to very good. Not good to great. But that's enough about the Titans. On to the Chiefs. And before I say anything specific about this game, I want to congratulate my buddy Nick, who's the biggest Chiefs fan I know. He's waited a really, really long time for this moment. The Chiefs had the second longest active Super Bowl drought before yesterday. And Nick has lived through a bunch of them. He has suffered a lot. And there is no one that deserves this more than him. Second to Andy Reid, of course. Reid is first, Nick is second. So, Nick, I just wanted to congratulate you. I hope you're listening. We were texting yesterday, so I really, really hope that you listen to this. There is no doubting Patrick Mahomes' greatness. He is by far and away the best player in the NFL right now. He does it all. His arms, his legs, his attitude. The Titans were up in this game. And there's a little bit of a sense of, well, hold on. Could we be seeing another upset? But everyone in that stadium and a bunch of people watching knew that Mahomes wouldn't let them die. He rallied the troops. And he put together a dominant performance. Throwing for almost 300 yards. Responsible for 4 touchdowns. He was their leading rusher yesterday, helped by a run that very few other quarterbacks can make. The 27-yarder. I don't know if Lamar Jackson can do that. Mahomes is a lot stronger than Jackson. I think Jackson would have gotten stuffed at the goal line. Mahomes powered through. Watching the run, my jaw was on the floor. My father happened to look down at that exact moment. And when halftime hit, I rewound it to show him. That's how jaw-dropping the run was. I went out of my way to show it to someone. He did a fantastic job of getting all his receivers involved. He's elite. There's no other word for it. For the next 15 years, we are going to get to watch this guy play. He is the next Peyton Manning. He is the next Tom Brady. He's the next Marino. He's the next Montana. He's that dominant. And I consider it a blessing that I'm alive right now to see his greatness. Tyrann Mathieu was the best player for the Chiefs on defense. I thought both their safeties stepped up. Mathieu was all over the place making plays. And Daniel Sorensen was a fantastic tackler in this game, as he is basically every game. One of the most underrated players in the NFL, man. I really like watching Sorensen play. And a big congratulations goes to Andy Reid for finally getting over the hump, making his second Super Bowl I'm not going to make any predictions now, but there were a bunch of people that were questioning whether he could get to this point. Now, he's still got to win the big one. He still has not done that, and if he can't do it in a couple weeks, it's a little scary, but he got to the Super Bowl. That's half the battle. There were some skeptics of Andy Reid going into this playoff run. Hopefully those skeptics have died down. I'm really happy for Reid, really happy for Mahomes, and this is a very, very fun Chiefs team to watch. Moving over to Packers 49ers, and the Packers played a really, really good game on offense. Aaron Rodgers was dominant. He didn't let his team die, and let me tell you, that's just an underrated part of a quarterback's game. It's something that I focus on a lot. There are some people out there who, when their team is down, they just give up. They don't think that they can come back. The best quarterbacks inspire confidence in their team, and they don't let them give up. Even when the odds are stacked against them. Even in the fourth quarter, when everyone in the building knew that the Niners were going to be going to Miami. Rodgers had the Packers fighting. Give him a ton of credit there. Give Aaron Jones credit. He should have gotten the ball more. He was on yesterday. The only reason that he didn't was because the Packers were down early, and they were down big. I understand why Jones didn't get involved, but I think that if he had gotten more involved, he would have rushed for over 100 yards. He looked really, really good in this game and was responsible for 2 touchdowns. Davante Adams was the best pass catcher on the field, as he is in every Packers game. What more can you say about him that hasn't already been said? The main thing that I want to focus on in this game is something about Rodgers himself. And this is something that I saw from Skip Bayless. Now, I have my own issues with Bayless, but he raised a very, very good point. With Aaron Rodgers as the Packers quarterback, the Packers are 1-3 in NFC title games. And the one conference title game that he won, he did not play well, he didn't throw a touchdown, and Jay Cutler got hurt for the Bears, and they had to go with Caleb Haney. I'm not trying to take away from Rodgers' greatness. He is the best quarterback of this era before Patrick Mahomes. The order of dominance goes Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. That's the correct order. The fact that he's 1-3 in NFC title games, that does mean something. We've got to start talking about Rodgers being a very, very disappointing playoff quarterback. And it kills me to say that. I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. He's a generational talent. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but his legacy should be a lot better than it is. This is a guy, when you watch him play, he should have multiple Super Bowls. Instead, he may retire with only one. That's really, really scary. Moving over to the Niners now, Jimmy Garoppolo didn't need to do anything special. He only threw 8 passes, and that's just because the Niners got up big early, and they just pounded the rock with Raheem Mostert. And let me say something about Mostert. This is a guy who had to fight for everything he got, was on the practice squad for a bunch of years, was an afterthought for a bunch of years. He was on the Jets practice squad. I actually didn't know that. I was reading his Wikipedia article yesterday because I was so bored. He was on the Jets practice squad. That should infuriate you if you're a Jets fan. But I don't want to rehash ancient history. Yesterday, Raheem Mostert was nothing short of sensational. He was dominant. He was elite. He looked amazing. 4 touchdowns. Over 200 yards on the ground. He looked like the second coming of Roger Craig. Hell, he looked better than Craig. I didn't even think he was the best running back in this game going into it. I thought it was Aaron Jones. If Mostert can run like that in Miami in 13 days, the Niners are going to be a very, very tough team to beat, especially with their defense playing so well. Arik Armstead, Kawan Williams, and Richard Sherman were great in this game. This was an incredibly well-rounded effort by the Niners defense. Give Kyle Shanahan a ton of credit. They had the second overall pick last year for a reason. They were garbage. Garoppolo came back and played 16 really good games. Give Shanahan credit for that. Give John Lynch a ton of credit for coming out of the broadcasting booth with no front office experience and showing very early on that he was not lost, that he knew what he was doing. He fleeced the Bears in the Trubisky trade, and now he's put together a team that's very close to winning a Super Bowl. And give Robert Saleh a ton of credit for coordinating this defense. The fact that he is not a head coach is stunning to me. Next year, man, we've got 3 really, really good candidates out there in Eric Bieniemy, Robert Saleh, and Arthur Smith. I guarantee you this, football fans. In 13 days, you're going to see a fantastic Super Bowl. You're going to see a great offense in the Chiefs and a great defense in the 49ers. It's going to be so much fun to watch those two go at it. As for who I think is going to win, I'm going to make that pick next Friday. I'll leave you in suspense. Moving on to Louisville Duke now, and this was a stunning game to me. Not just the fact that Duke lost. I did pick Duke on Friday. I thought this would be a game that was right in Krzyzewski's wheelhouse, since they're usually incredibly one-dimensional, and it was at Cameron. But Louisville pulled off the upset. Give them credit. They played a great game. What surprised me the most about this game was the fact that Jordan Nwora was absent, and they still won. Firstly, let me just say that I was calling him Jordan Nwora on Friday, and that's wrong. It's Nwora. The N is silent. I apologize for that. It's Jordan Nwora. And Louisville, usually, if they're going to win, they usually need him to go off. And he played like garbage in this game. He only shot 25% from the field and went 0 for 3 from beyond the arc. He was terrible. But Louisville was able to compensate because Dwayne Sutton had 13 points, Stephen Enoch had 10 points, and the bench, the Louisville bench, stepped up and played the best game that they have all year. David Johnson was the high man with 19 points. Now, the injury that he suffered doesn't seem to be serious. It does seem like he's going to be back on Wednesday against UNLV, so that's good. And Malik Williams had 12 points, along with an absolute dagger of a posterizing dunk late in the game. It was really, really incredible. That was a tough finish, and he was able to make it. I give Williams credit. Louisville played a great game here. They played really well defensively, and they were able to win when their best player had an off night. This is a game that's going to help them down the line, especially in March. When they play great teams consistently, they're going to be able to shut down Nwora. And he's not going to be able to go off for 20. And the supporting cast will have to pick up the slack. Now, I didn't think that they'd be able to. But if they can put together more performances like they did on Saturday, they're going to be a very tough out in March. And when you look at it from Duke's end, this is really not a great Duke team. It's a much worse Duke team than last year. I understand that was expected since they had the first and third overall picks in the draft last year leave, and Cam Reddish left also. Where'd he go, like 8th overall, something like that? I know he went in the top 10, so 3 players that were top 10 talents for them are no longer on the team. Of course you're going to suffer. But this Duke team is just not playing great basketball. You watch them and they look good, but they don't look great. They look very beatable. It's a team that can beat you in multiple ways, and I like that. But the thing is, there really isn't a superstar. Vernon Carey is disappointed this year. Vernon Carey was looked at as a potential first overall pick. That hasn't happened. Their best player most nights has been either Trey Jones or Cassius Stanley. That wasn't how it was supposed to be. And Jones and Stanley were garbage in this game. They shot a combined 2 for 11 from 3. If each of them hit just one more 3, the game's going overtime. And if Carey doesn't get into foul trouble early, they probably win. This team is really going to need to get their act together in a couple months. Because the way they're playing right now, they're not going to do anything in March. They'll be out in the Sweet 16. Maybe the Elite 8, depending on the matchup. But in the conference tournament, forget about it. They're certainly not better than Louisville. We saw it on Saturday. And I don't think they're better than FSU. I don't think FSU is a good matchup for them. Krzyzewski needs to get all these guys playing at the level that we all know they can. They're good college basketball players. They're very good college basketball players. They're on Duke, for goodness sake. They have talent. The thing is just getting it out of them. Moving over to the NBA now, the first notable story there was the Kings-Blazers trade. I understand that it's not a blockbuster, but it's still notable. Whenever 5 players get traded, that's notable. And I think that the Blazers got the better end of this deal. For starters, I'm not a big Kent Bazemore fan. He's always been a good, not great shooter, and he's massively overpaid. Now, I know that it's an expiring contract, but that coupled with his just good, not great scoring, I was never a big fan of his. And Anthony Tolliver's a good rebounder. I mean, he's a Trevor Booker, Reggie Evans type. He's not a great player by any stretch, and he's not terrible. He's a little undersized at 6'8", but he can still get rebounds. He positions himself very well, and he is strong. But I just think that the Blazers got the better players. Look, I understand that Trevor Ariza is a shell of his former self, and he's never going to put up 15 points a game. And he's having a bad year this year. He has not fit in to Luke Walton's system. But I like the idea of him playing with Lillard and McCollum. I actually think that that's a really good fit for him. The Trailblazers are a team that is focused on outside shooting. And Ariza has always been a good outside shooter. He's shooting 35% in his career from beyond the arc. And he hasn't lost it this year. He's still shooting 35% from beyond the arc. He just hasn't fit into Luke Walton's system. And the Kings had a terrible offseason. Dwayne Dedmon hasn't fit in. They're looking to trade him. Good luck finding someone to take that contract. It's not good in Sacramento. This is a team that was close to making the playoffs last year, and they've taken a major step back this year. Vivek Ranadive is a terrible owner. Vlade Divac is a terrible executive. And Luke Walton, I don't think, is a great coach. And the young guns that they gave up, Gabriel and Swanigan, I feel like there's a little untapped potential there. Certainly with Gabriel, and even a little bit with Swanigan. They both actually remind me a lot of Anthony Tolliver. The Trailblazers got the younger versions of Anthony Tolliver. Now, you're not going to be able to play them both. You're going to have to trade one of them or release one of them. I don't know who that's going to be, but they both still have some potential. They'll never be great players, but I swear to God, they honestly remind me a lot of Anthony Tolliver when I watch them play. I understand that the Kings got a couple second-round picks, and that does mean something, but I don't think it's enough to push this trade in their favor. I'm giving the edge to the Blazers. The second notable story in the NBA is the Jazz locking up Royce O'Neal for 4 years at $9 million a year. O'Neal's a weird player, man. He's only 6'4", but he plays both forward positions. Now, he's not a good scorer, but he's a really good defender. He actually reminds me a lot of John Isaac. The Jazz actually constructed their team really smart. They let Rudy Gobert do his thing inside. They don't let anyone crowd the lane next to him. And they just have scorers on the outside. Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, Bojan Bogdanovic, Joe Ingles. I really like how they've constructed their team this year. They're a team that will give their opponent in the playoffs, whoever it is, a scare. There's no question about that in my mind. O'Neal's a big part of what they do. They didn't overpay a lot for a defensive specialist. $9 million a year is fine for a starter who really only does one thing. I understand his three-point percentage is good this year, but you don't want him taking a bunch of threes. I like the way the Jazz use him. I like the idea of him being kept in the fold long term, so I like the deal. The notable NHL rumor is that, according to Bruce Garriock of the Ottawa Sun, the Predators are looking to trade Mikael Granlund. Now, Granlund is a guy who has had a really good NHL career so far. He's a guy who just 2 years ago put up 67 points. This kid has a bunch of talent. But, like a bunch of players from the Predators this year, he's underachieved. And with the new coach coming in, it seems like Poile wants to flip a guy who he traded a pretty notable player for just a year ago in Kevin Fiala. Now, while Fiala is not better than Granlund now, and I don't think he ever will be, he's still a really good top 9 forward with the potential to one day play on the top 6. And now, just a year later, Poile is looking to flip the guy who he traded that guy for. Firing Laviolette was the start of a massive blow-up in Nashville. The core that was put together was a nice try. I don't think anyone can begrudge Poile for thinking that guys like Yossi, Forsberg, Duchesne, Ellis, Yarncroc, Johansson, etc., could lead this team to a deep playoff run. But It just hasn't worked. Their goaltending has been pathetic. And guys like Granlund and Kyle Turris and Craig Smith, who were expected to play big roles, have faltered. I don't hate the idea of trading Granlund, especially since he's on the last year of his deal and the Predators are not going to make the playoffs this year. The thing that I don't like about it is that you traded a really good player in Fiala for him, and for this to make any sense, you have to get something of equal value back. And if you hold on to him through the deadline, just re-sign him. You know, he does have talent. He's not the reason that the Predators have faltered this year. It's the goaltending. I don't hate the idea of bringing Granlund back at a bridge deal and seeing if he can earn a big boy contract in a few years. As it stands right now, if I was a Predators fan, I'd be a little nervous as to the direction of my team, especially since they are going to go with a huge rebuild soon, I think. But then again, I'm an Islanders fan, and as you heard this morning, I have my own problems. Tomorrow, I'm going to break down the latest and greatest in sports. I'll probably preview Butler Villanova, maybe some This Day in Sports History, maybe another Mount Rushmore. I don't know what the future holds. I may not have time for any of that depending on what hits the wire. All I know is you're definitely going to want to tune in tomorrow. Until then, I am Jacob Valk saying that with the old Padres teams, you'd get off to a 4-1 start, and that'd be the highlight of your year.